Hello everybody, welcome to another reaction video. This time it's going to be Critical Drinker Why Modern Movies Suck. Nobody can say that. Well, I can agree to that. Modern movies, yeah, a lot of them are just completely trash. Absolute trash, and also serious. I did see Ahsoka episode 5, and I'm gonna say, yes, it's good in part, but it's not enough to save Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars is dead. I mean, come on, Disney, just admit it. Your merchandise has just plummeted. So yeah, I just want to point it out that yes, I've seen now episode 5 of Ahsoka. Still, I think it's a trash show. I don't like it. This episode, yes, Hayden Christensen as Anakin again. It was just those moments were so just those small moments with Ahsoka and Anakin together, learning in the Clone Wars, like action wars. Like, my God, why couldn't Star Wars be like that from the beginning? Oh, unfortunately, no, it's not enough to save Star Wars. Star Wars is dead. Oh, and all those Disney fanboys, Disney Star Wars fanboys. Oh, they are irritating now. Small, they are kind of like the Twitter things. They are, even though I don't use X anymore for a very long time now. Minority are those who are just the loudest and get everything. Just, I'm done with it. I'm done with Twitter, X, whatever it's called. I'm done with Facebook. Instagram is the only thing I'm actually still using. So let's go into it. I'm excited to hear what he has to say, what his argument is, or has something like triggered him to do this. Well, let's just jump into it. Also, I'm also gonna say I'm a little bit sorry that my anime review or anime figurine review was a little bit short and it was very how should I say, not that so well worked out, because I had a lot of I don't have a lot of time to do a lot of things, like for example reviews and something. I have a life basically, so I have to do a lot of other things. So unfortunately that one was pretty fast. But let's jump into this one.
Benjamin Franklin once famously quipped that there are only two certainties in life: death and taxes. And that's what I'm here to talk about today: the shocking rise in personal income tax rates over the past 10 years. Oh, come on! Sorry, death. Specifically, death in media. Surely the ultimate and most permanent conclusion to any character's story. The end of everything they are, and everything they ever could be. Everything they might have said and thought. Every task they might have accomplished.
Oh, I love that movie. What was this called? The Italian movie with where the father is like the father and son goes to concentration camp in Italy. Oh, it's such a good movie. It's unfortunate how it ends.
Every life they might have touched. It all ends when
I
they
haven't
draw
seen
their
that one in such a long time.
final breath. And just like in real life, their passing often leaves behind an aching void of emptiness and grief that other characters, and even the audience themselves, must struggle to come to terms with. At least it used to. Nowadays, the death of a major character is treated more...
That's so stupid. I can admit to it, just like in the old movies, it's kind of like stupid, but they bring Spock back in a little bit more realistic way, in my opinion, rather than this one did. Even though I do like the new Star Trek movies from JA, I can understand a lot of Trekkies out there, they didn't like it, and I can understand it. I mean, from this perspective, going from an exploration TV series to like a full action movie, it's just with just actions, it's just
more like a passing inconvenience that can be easily fixed whenever the plot needs it to happen, or a hack writer wants to jangle some shiny keys in front of the audience.
That's the scene. Even though a lot of Star Wars fans or like world class bullshit, and I think it was Mulder and a lot of other YouTubers have been very critical of it. I'm gonna be on. I can't be on the same side. I have to be on the good side, for me at least. I fucking love Clone Wars. It was such an experience when I grew up. Absolutely fantastic. Every goddamn, I think it was Friday or Sunday, when there was a new episode. I think it was Friday. It was probably Fridays. I prepared every time with the popcorn, drinks, everything, and I enjoy every episode of Clone Wars. I actually planning to revisit every single one of them because they were so good. So yes, this small moment, as I talk about, in this small moment in this episode was so. Oh yeah.
Audience for a bit of cheap nostalgia, or the studio decides they want to squeeze a bit more money out of a once popular legacy character. Yeah. Whatever the reason, it all adds up to the same problem.
If Faden came back. Oh no. Oh, thankfully it's. PD actually knew what we was doing. God, when did it came out? Like 2001, the Fellowship of the Ring, the Two Tower 2002, and Return of the King 2003, I think it was. Such an experience.
Nobody stays fucking dead anymore, and that creates some very obvious additional problems that we'll get into later. Believe that. But for now at least, let's consider some of the most popular and convenient paths.
I think I already know what he's going to choose. Palpatine.
For character resurrection. I mean, we'll leave out the absolute chads who just bring people back to life with no explanation whatsoever.
Somehow Palpatine returned. Somehow Palpatine returned.
I think the explanation was that in the new Disney Star Wars lore that this wasn't the Emperor, it was a clone of him. Is that the actual lore to Disney Star Wars? Is that canon now? That this wasn't the Emperor, it was a clone of him? Like, I don't know. Somehow Palpatine returned.
Somehow Palpatine returned. Palpatine returned.
Probably the least damaging method is to work more or less within the confines of the fictional world that you've.
Is that the space movie with George Clooney when he was just? I think he died when he just went out into space, and I was so freaking surprised when he just jumped into the what was it, like space pod or something. I was like, what the, are they gonna do this? Like, what the hell is happening? And then fortunately it was just a dream. I was like, oh thank God, at least they showed that something more realistic is sort of way
created. Usually when you've got highly advanced science and technology to fall back on, it'll definitely stretch the audience's suspension of disbelief, but with luck it can be done without completely breaking your own narrative rules, like the Matrix Resurrections for example. Remember Neo and Trinity?
I actually walked out on that one. I was like, I'm sorry Keanu and everybody else, but this movie is trash.
Remember how they both totally died at the end of Matrix Revolutions when Trinity took a steel girder to the gut and Neo got assimilated by Agent Smith and then his brain exploded or something and he turned into sci-fi space Jesus? I mean, it wasn't high art or anything, but it got the job done, I suppose. But what happens when you're a studio desperate to squeeze a little more money out of an old franchise, but you desperately need your two main actors to be involved again? Fuck it, let's just say that the machines fixed their bodies up, brought them back to life, and plugged them right back into the Matrix like nothing happens. Genius. Or how about Colonel Quaritch from Avatar?
Oh, yeah.
Remember him? Probably not, because
why? And that movie was trash. I don't understand why people like it. I was like, the humans, all they have to do is just bomb everything that's a Navy settlements from the goddamn orbit. Like, how hard is it to understand that logical thing of strategy?
apparently half the world's entire population went to see that movie, but most of them could barely tell you a single thing about it today apart from the blue people were cool and the planet looked nice and that made my brain do a happy. But the point here is that Quaritch ultimately got turned into a human pincushion and ended up very dead as a result.
Yep.
But what do you do when it's 15 years later and you need an antagonist for your sequel and you can't be arsed coming up with a new one? Fuck it, let's just say he downloaded his brain into an avatar body off screen, despite the fact that his entire character was driven by his complete and utter contempt for the...
I gotta say, I do like the actor. He's actually a pretty good actor, and I did like him in the first Avatar. I think it was unbelievable. In some way, like, I can relate to him, because he's doing what humans are supposed to do to protect our species. I was like, fuck the Navis, screw them. Like humanity, the rest of humanity back on Earth, they are depending on us. Like for our survival, for our race. I was like, humanity first, terra firma. Screw the Navi.
The Navi, and he absolutely would never have agreed to such a procedure. And bingo, he's back in the game like nothing happens. Fuck off, film. I mean, shit, man, sometimes we don't even need to wait for a sequel. We can just bring characters back to life in the very next scene. Like in Star Trek Into Darkness, when Captain Kirk sacrifices his life to fix the Enterprise warp core by kicking it until it starts working again.
He can't be serious.
Honestly, if you want a single moment that pretty much exemplifies the attitude of modern Star Trek, then here it is. Anyway, because J.J. Abrams only knows how to
At least the old one made it more realistic in sort of way compared to the new one.
Purpose stuff that other people have already done far better. The whole scene is basically trying to mirror the death of Spock in The Wrath of Khan. But whereas that scene was poignantly handled and the audience was given an entire movie to process the grief of his death, and Kirk ultimately had to sacrifice his career, his ship, and even his own son to get Spock back, Into Darkness brings Kirk back to life literally minutes later by injecting him with Dirk Benedict Bundersnatch's magical Superman blood, which can apparently cure just about any disease or ailment up to and including death itself. Damn, man, I sure hope they get a sample of that so that they can basically prevent any disease ever, instead of just forgetting about it the moment it's accomplished the
I never thought about that, but yeah, absolutely.
one thing that the plot needs it for.
Fuck.
Another variation of the techno-jargon bullshit approach is to use the magical bullshit approach instead. Like in Wonder Woman 1984, where Diana uses the magical dildo crystal thing that grants wishes to bring Steve Trevor back from the dead. And for the purposes of this video, we'll just ignore the fact that Steve is actually inhabiting the body of a completely innocent bystander who absolutely didn't give permission for any of this stuff to happen to him and couldn't consent when Diana decides to have sex with him, because I guess stuff like this is morally and ethically fine when a woman does it. Anyway, the goal of the writers was once again to bring back a popular character that had already been killed off because they're so fucking lacking in anything even resembling imagination that all they could think to do was replicate the relationship dynamic of the previous film, thus making his sacrifice in that movie completely and utterly pointless.
Son of a bitch!
Another approach, which is possibly the most destructive in terms of its far-reaching plot repercussions, is using time travel and or alternate timelines to bring dead characters back to life. I mean, how many times have the Terminator...
Oh no, those two new movies were so bad.
Our movies use branching timelines to wheel out an increasingly saggy and decrepit Arnold Schwarzenegger to do his T-800 thing again, a role that he hasn't been able to convincingly play since the 1990s. And each time they do it, they have to ask the audience to conveniently forget whatever happened in the previous films because they've just been overwritten. Terminator Genisys effectively cancelled out the events of, well, basically the entire franchise up until that point, whereas Dark Fate asked us to pretend that everything after Terminator 2 never actually happened, while trying to replace it with a storyline that was infinitely worse in every possible way. It's a bit like going on a first date that's not really working out, and instead of just leaving, you burn down the entire restaurant and everyone inside it. Or Avengers Endgame, which suddenly threw in a time travel machine that allowed the writers to bring not one, but two major characters back to life, not only making their deaths in the previous movie completely meaningless, but opening the door to much bigger problems, like, why don't you use a time machine to recruit entire armies of superheroes from different timelines to counter any possible...
I don't think I actually watched the entire film because I saw it on TV when it was free and that's when it was up. I didn't watch to the end because I just feel like, nah, compared to the end game, which was really good, the one before this one, I remember. I just lost my fucking mind. I can't keep all these names for Avengers and superheroes movies together anymore. I'm just, screw it. Superhero movie number one.
Possible threat you could ever come up against. Why not do this every time someone dies or something goes mildly wrong? Why not go forward in time to procure advanced weapons and technology that can totally help you in the present?
Sorry that I'm pausing a little, but I think, isn't time travel, what do you call that? Time travel backwards is something that is actually impossible to do. It must be involved in some insane insane technology compared to we call that traveling forward in time. Traveling forward in time we can actually do because of with the help with gravitation, that sort of thing, like black holes. So going around it is for a couple of years, and you have advanced several years ahead. But backwards is a little bit trickier. The only way to travel backward is that someone else is traveling forward in time rather than you. So there's a lot of weird things about reality and space-time. It's so fascinating but so absolutely insane. But when they do it in movies, if they're not like, for example, Harry Potter, Prisoner of Azkaban, I think it was called. Yeah, my favorite actually. They explain it a little bit more better, but also it was kind of like stupid. Like, why didn't you use it more? Well, in the movie they don't really explain it, but I think in the books, if I remember correctly, they explain the time travel a little bit more. Like, why they couldn't do it for a second time to save Sirius or capture Pettigrew when he was fleeing from the fight with Lupin and that sort of thing. If I remember correctly, it was some time ago when I read the books, but I think they said something about that. Why they couldn't go another try. Or I don't remember exactly, but at least in the book they explain that a bit more compared to the movies. And try traveling in movies is so, it's a very tricky theme to go with. The only movie that I can think that kind of like had that success with it was Back to the Future and the Terminator.
Why haven't other people and factions invented time travel as well? Why isn't there a fucking massive universal arms race for such world-shattering technology? Questions like these will simply never end because time travel is the ultimate narrative can of worms. Once you've opened it, there's no logical way to close it again, and it's only going to grow until it consumes your entire...
Just like nuclear weapons, like the first Trinity bomb it's just it's a little fart compared to the bombs we have today. I mean, the Trinity test, just a little explosion compared to how modern day bombs.
Entire fictional universe, invalidating every plot point and destroying even the illusion of stakes and consequences. The final method is a word that I've come to utterly despise over the past couple of years. A word that's largely responsible for speeding up the downfall of modern superhero movies. A word called multiverses. Basically, it's the writing equivalent
Sam Neill can definitely scream.
Of playing a video game in sandbox mode, where you can spawn in any character, situation, location, or item at will. Want to bring back a dead character played by the same actor, or one from a totally different version of your IP? No problem, just multiverse them into existence, and you barely even have to come up with a justification, because who even cares, really? The fans certainly don't. They just want to see different versions of their favourite characters interacting with each other, making jokes and fighting bad guys. It's the movie equivalent of watching a little kid smash together their G.I. Joe and He-Man toys. It doesn't really make any sense, but it's entertaining at least from a novelty point of view. I mean, Spider-Man No Way Home at least did a decent job with the concept, mostly because the characters were handled with a hint of respect, there was a compelling emotional core driving things forward, and the movie knew to keep the narrative relatively contained and grounded. The problem is that just like with time travel, it opened the floodgates to a gigantic tidal wave of shit to flow out into cinemas. Suddenly everyone was jumping on the multiverse bandwagon because it was a fun gimmick, and when you're out of actual serious creative ideas, gimmicks are basically all you've got left. That's why we had Michael Keaton's Batman taking on CGI space aliens in a desert in the middle of the day, or Doctor Strange fighting an evil version of himself with a third eye for some reason, or Kang and this fucking floating potato threatening to conquer all of existence. It's what happens when one good idea gets hijacked by a bunch of useless hacks desperate to exploit the next big thing before everyone else gives up and moves on. And that, dear viewer, is the fate that awaits so many movies who try this kind of shit, because the obvious result of routinely bringing dead characters back to life...
What was that movie called now again? The one with Sean Connery when he's a dragon. Dragonheart, right? It's a good movie. I mean, as a child when I saw it, I was like, man, it's a good movie. I have seen the second one. I think that's the one when the dragon is young and he's sharing his heart with the Crown Prince or something. The third one, is that the one with the Hadrian Wall or something? They kind of like have that little bit of Game of Thrones kind of thing with like, we have to protect our land, protect the walls or something like that. And they go over and find some dragon egg. I don't remember exactly. I do know there was another one. A fourth one. I don't think I've seen it.
With the most flimsy justifications is that nothing that happens carries any weight anymore because it can all be undone whenever the writers feel like it. Whether it's through some contrived scientific or magical bullshit, alternate timelines overwriting past events, or different realities merging together, it all adds up to the same basic problem. Nothing matters anymore, so there's no reason to get invested in any of it. If your favourite character dies, so what? There's no reason to feel bad because they'll probably be back in the sequel.
Bring back Stauffenberg. Oh god, no. God, Stauffenberg, what a goddamn shit that man must have been. I would. Man, that is a man you really want to talk to. Like, how did it feel to place that bomb to almost kill that motherfucker?
Whoa, if the villain gets defeated, what difference does it make? Because they'll return for payback sooner or later. It becomes nothing more than a crutch for writers who can't stand on their own 2 feet and come up with new...
No, when it comes to, especially dog, I'm a dog person. When it comes to movies with dogs, I'm just no. Ever. Except for that upcoming one with the... What was it called? I don't remember, but I want to see it. In a way I want to see it because it looks more like fun compared to more serious. I mean, I'm sorry, I can watch bloody children get tortured and killed in movies, but when it comes to dogs, I was like, no.
New original ideas to move a narrative forwards. Because why take a chance on that when you can just bring back recognisable things that were once popular and leech off the success of other people's hard work? The end result is a kind of creative inertia, like a car spinning its wheels in the mud, splattering shit everywhere without actually making any forward progress. Combine this with the over-reliance on sequels, reboots and remakes, and we're fast becoming a culture mired in stagnation, recycling inferior copies of old ideas and properties with decline in skill and passion. The stories we tell ourselves now have become simple commodities, as disposable and forgettable as a fast food lunch, rather than actual artistic endeavours with something meaningful to say. Hollywood might be able to resurrect any character that they've bought the legal rights to, but the one thing they can't bring back to life is the interest of their own audience. And I think this year they're going to learn that lesson in the hardest way possible. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away.
Yeah, recycled movies is just so dumb. Like, oh yeah, it's a problem, but hey, it earns money for some reason. Don't know why. Like, yeah, no matter how much we tell them it's a bad idea, they're just gonna do it anyway. So, well, damn, Critical Drinker never really end his his videos with positive views. Yeah, well, I shouldn't say never. Partially. Well, that was, yeah, enlightened, I should say. There's a lot of things to go over with modern movies, absolutely. But hey, if it sells and it earns money, then the corporations and studios are just not going to listen to any kind of criticism. Good video anyway. So see you all later for my next video. It's probably going to be Starfield. I'm working on it, and I have finished the game, not to 100%. I have finished the main story and some of the side quests in here, there, and side stories in sort of way. I have at least I build up enough opinion to finally do a review on that game. The only kind of like teaser I have to say about it is that it's a good game. It's a really good game, absolutely. It's not a massive disappointment, but it is. There's a lot of disappointment here and there, absolutely, but it's not the bad shittiest game I've ever played, absolutely not. And it's not the best game I've ever played, not even from Bethesda, weirdly. But anyway, see you all for that one.